has been double each year, with leaping from 150 to about 350,000, and now to double that number, which obviously posed and poses a challenge to our system. But we acknowledge this, as I said, as a system, as an achievement that reflects sustained progress in basic education, but also the determination of our learners, educators, families, and communities. But also progress, as I said, carries pressure. The post-school education and training system currently has approximately 535,000 or so funded and planned spaces across universities, TVET colleges, community colleges, skills program, and also workplace-based learning. This gap between success and capacity is real, it's also structural, but it's also long-standing. But we must also accept that the last 2 years or so has created this shock to the system, which also means that our responses need to be much more bold and much more firmer. So what do we mean? What does the matric results mean, and what do they not mean? Because that's also important. The 2005 National Certificate results provide important insight into learner outcomes and also post-school pathways. 46.4% of candidates achieved a bachelor's pass. Okay? We are going to have a fight this year with basic education, a very friendly fight, because bachelors, or categorizing a pass as bachelors, essentially means that you are creating an expectation which our rules in universities do not necessarily operate by. So we've already raised this with the minister, but we've also discussed that it's, we've spoken that it's something that we need to take further. And the similar thing with diploma pass, which is at 28.1% that has achieved this, and 13.5% which achieved a higher certificate pass. This means that over 40% of learners did not achieve a bachelor's pass, which underscores a fundamental truth. Our post-school system must be differentiated, articulated, but also well communicated. It's also critical to clarify a persistent misunderstanding. A bachelor's pass does not guarantee admission to a university or to a specific program. So that's first. Second, meeting an APA score does not necessarily guarantee someone a space for that particular program. What does this mean? So if about 2 million applications countrywide, that's an exaggeration of course, are received for law, which currently is one of the popular programs, does it mean that we should train 2 million lawyers as a country? No. And so that's where planning comes in. So we have a particular number of students that we want to train on the basis of what we believe are the projections and where the economy is growing and so on and so forth. And so I think we so it's important that we make that particular emphasis, and that on its own has exerted pressure. We've been having fights with parents, and we're going to have fights with parents into the coming week until the university system begins to admit students. So that's basically what the matric result means for us as the post-school education and training sector. The second element is science, technology, engineering as a systemic priority. We see this as a major structural constraint confronting the PSET system is the pipeline into science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Current trends are actually very concerning. Growing enrollment in mathematical literacy rather than pure mathematics. Secondly, stagnant performance in mathematics and accounting. And thirdly, limited growth in physical sciences. And so the consequences are very profound. Learners are excluded from high-demand programs in engineering, health sciences, ICT, data science, and also advanced manufacturing, not because of institutional failure, but because of subject-level preparation. This weakness, this weakens our national skills base and limits the system's responsiveness to industrialization, to innovation, but also to economic growth. And so for this reason, the Department of Basic Education and our department are finalizing terms in terms of strengthening alignment, particularly around subject choice guidance, learner preparedness, and also smoother transition into post-school science, technology, engineering, mathematics program. Our Deputy Minister, Dube Ngube, together with the Department of Basic Education and the Department of Science Innovation, would be leading a program to popularize mathematics and also STEM-related projects. And I think at the appropriate time, she will provide the details in terms of how this will work. Now, how do we manage the gap between passes and pathways? The growth in matric success reinforces the agency of moving beyond a university-centric narrative. South Africa's post-school system was deliberately designed to be differentiated, with universities, TVET colleges, CET colleges, occupational qualifications, skills programs, and also work-based learning, all forming part of a single system. And so, when people look up to our system, it should not just be that we want to go to universities. When people look up to our system, it must be that I either want to pursue an academic or a vocational stream, or a hybrid of those streams. And so choose on the basis of what is available out there in terms of these particular streams. And they are provided across all of our institutions. And so I think it's important that we emphasize that, and that we therefore want to strengthen, for instance, coordinated enrollment planning across the system so that it speaks to each other, and that, and it also speaks to what we're getting from basic education. The newly established Just Energy Transition Skills Desk will play a critical role in linking learner demands to priority economic sectors, particularly renewable energy, construction, grid infrastructure, and also electric mobility. Given infrastructure and staffing constraints, we will increasingly prioritize short courses and modular qualifications, particularly at our TVET colleges and our community colleges. We'll encourage the growth of occupational programs that can be scaled up as speedily as possible. And I must say that this year is the first year when we are having a much more bigger rollout of our occupational program. Workplace-based learning, which includes apprenticeship, learnerships, and internship, which will be the emphasis of our sector education and training authorities. 3 pathways which offer faster labor market entry while allowing articulation into further learning. So if you could not get a sport at university, it does not mean that it is the end. We have all of these options, and we encourage learners together with their parents to look for and find these opportunities. Your TVET colleges, as I said, community colleges, and so on and so forth. Let me state this unequivocally, particularly in terms of TVETs and colleges as primary pathways. TVETs and CET colleges are not residual options. This morning, we had our second war room meeting, where we have everyone within the sector present and present what they believe are some of the hotspots. And one of the hotspots is the fact that those students who couldn't make it to university are now trekking to TVET colleges. And we're quite proud with the work that our principals in TVET colleges are doing. They're not returning anyone back. They are ensuring that they keep the records of the students who want to apply in those TVET colleges, and where they can, they do proceed in allowing those students to go and study there. So TVETs are the options together with CETs, and not residual options. They are a central pillar of our PSET system. They provide practical skills, accessible and work-related education to the majority of South Africans, and are essential to confronting unemployment, inequality and poverty. Through these institutions, students progress into artisan and trade qualifications, occupational qualifications at NQF levels 3 to 6, skills program that are linked to priority sectors, but also employment, self-employment and entrepreneurship, and also further learning and articulation. We are aware that most of our community colleges are facing a variety of challenges, and similarly to our TVET colleges, it does not take away the fact that amongst those, the majority of them continue to churn out skilled young people into the economy, and that those which have challenges, we are focusing on those institutions to improve them. And Deputy Minister Gondwe, working together with officials in our department, are focused on ensuring that we improve the provision of the identity and marketing of our community colleges. Community education and training colleges remains, we are strengthening TVET colleges as sector-focused hubs of skills development through centers of specialization, trade test center, modernized workshops, and also industry-aligned curricula. The National Skills Fund is currently funding the Umsinga TVET Smart Campus pilot as at a value exceeding 350 million rands, with completion expected by 2027, as part of not just expansion for the sake of it, but also digital expansion. And that's one of the campuses which we are focusing on. Community education and training colleges remain central to inclusive access, fully prepared for the 2026 academic year, and will be accommodating youth and adults who are seeking the amended senior certificate. So if you want to improve your marks, if they say, put some 3, 4 or 10% in your English, your community colleges are places to go to. But those young people who want to have a skill, a basic entry-level skill. Some of our community colleges providing cooking, providing sewing, but also providing basic digital literacy programs. There's one here in Diepkloof which has a state-of-the-art IT facility. Not in Diepkloof, but somewhere in Soweto. So access your community colleges for short-term programs or to improve your matric results and so forth and so on. And most of this are located in a school near you, or the schools will have information on where you should go to register for a community college program. The academic year commenced in our colleges on the 12th of January, and most of the colleges, and together with TVET colleges, have already started with their academic programs. And those who are going to be registered late, I was assured this morning that there will be complementary lessons that are provided to them for them to be able to catch up. NSFAS, I said about 5 months ago, Deputy Minister, that we are not minister and deputy ministers of NSFAS, and that our focus will be to ensure that we stabilize the institution. I think that discussion, we should leave it out for today. But there are things which I want us to focus on, because the NSFAS remains very critical. So for 2026, and these are important numbers, 626,935 first-time applications are going to be funded and have been informed, verified by the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, both at universities and also at TVET colleges. Just check, Wasim, what the numbers were last year. Secondly, that 427,144,000 continuing university students who met progression criteria will also be funded. So essentially, the NSFAS will be funding 1 million students. 1 million students who are going to be getting their, some of them student accommodation allowance, some of them who are going to be getting transport allowance, and so on and so forth. I need to say this. I asked the CEO of NSFAS last week as to how much do we spend as the South African people on each of the students. And he says if we remove the UNISA students, it goes up to 120,000 rands on average. So the South African people through the state is giving each of our students who are going to universities, to TVET colleges, about 120,000. Now, this is a huge investment. And so when we hear news that 72%, right, of these students have actually passed, and passed very well, and that they are progressing, this is very, very good news, because it speaks against the narrative that we're giving students free bursaries and that they're going to waste it. And yes, there are other issues. There's issues of gambling, there's issues of alcohol abuse, and so on and so forth. But those are isolated areas. 74% of these students who are funded by NSFAS have passed. And I think it's cause for celebration. Yes, it must be more. It must be, more this number, and it will be more. But I think the fact that we have this many who have passed is cause for celebration. Some of them are busy now writing their supplementary exams, so that number might actually increase. So this is actually cause, I think, for us for celebration. But in terms of student funding, that's not the only pool. Our SETAs continue to play a critical complementary role. In the 2025-26 cycle, over 15,000 new bursary beneficiaries and nearly 8,000 continuing beneficiaries are supported. So many of our students are also getting bursaries from SETAs to the tune of about 2 billion rand. This diversification of funding sources reduces over-reliance on NSFAS, and we believe strengthen the systems. We're discussing with the National Skills Fund on how we can extend opportunities for funding of students. Deputy Minister Dube Ngube is also consolidating our international scholarship portfolio, and we believe that that also has an impetus and will make an impact. Institutions across the sector, in terms of state of our readiness, have undertaken extensive preparations for the 2026 academic year. As I indicated earlier, that this morning we had a ministerial war room convened to assess readiness, which was the second, and it's supported by a technical committee war room which meets daily, which assesses the status of the sector on a daily basis and is able to take decisions at their level. And so we're confident of a stable opening of the academic year with ongoing monitoring. And so this is important, that we're very confident of a stable opening of the academic year. It does not mean that there are no incidents, and it doesn't mean that we're not attending to those incidents. Yes, we are, and we are aware of those. Academic success, however, is inseparable. Where am I now? However, there were a few issues which came out of there, and which I thought it may be important that we address. There's concerns that in certain communities, communities have risen up and are confronting universities, and they want strictly locals from those communities to be employed or to be admitted in those universities. We do not think that that's helpful. And so we've encouraged our institutions to engage with communities so that they find an amicable way. But we do not think that this should be a way within which we destabilize the institution. Secondly, we've had stories where private accommodation providers go into institutions and basically, physically recruit students into their private accommodation. We don't think that students should be intimidated. Students should feel free to choose whatever accommodation that they use. And I think this also strengthens our belief that institutions themselves should run student accommodation. And this is something that the NSFAS itself is working speedily towards. But it's important that as it relates to the role of private accommodation providers, we resist. It's not all of them, but we've had about, a few incidents, particularly in TVET colleges, where this, is happening. But otherwise, we believe that there's an aura of stability, a sense of stability. And yes, the second wave of registration will be taking place for those returning students in the coming few weeks. And so we'll know, how, the extent of the stability of institution. And I think for the students, for the new students, yes, this can be a very challenging period, and to their parents. And we want to appeal to them to become, importantly, let's ensure that if you have an inquiry about the university you want to study at, go to their website or speak to the official correspondence. Don't allow to be manipulated or someone taking advantage of you, and you end up paying money and they promise you sports and so on and so forth. The way in which the investor has been communicating with you, maintain that. And similarly with TVET colleges, let's maintain that. With NSFAS, let's maintain that so that your identity is protected, but also that you are not taken advantage of. But with our institution, which is higher health, in terms of mental health and pressures and so on, if you feel like you need to talk to someone, check with higher health, particularly for new students, and also, yes, of course, returning student. In fact, the Deputy Secretary General of SAUS made a very sound proposal that every university, every TVET college must have at the back of their student card that number for higher health, which is a toll-free helpline at 0800 363636, 0800 363636 on any mental health related issues. And I'm sure if there are whatever other challenges relating to higher education, they won't send you away. They know where NSFAS is, they know where which university is, or which TVET college or community college is, so that they may also be able, to help you. Before I conclude, we have and will continue with our intensified campaign against colleges that are not registered. Private higher education, as I said earlier, is part of, in our view, the post-school education and training sector. There are private universities, private colleges, institutions that are out there which have been providing a good service to South Africans. But this does not mean that all of these colleges are legitimate, are registered, and are providing programs which are of quality, which will lead you to employability or whatever you want to do into the future. So when you go and register at a private college, it may be a college that has been here for 100 years, or the building might have just opened up last week. It does not matter. Make sure that you check that college's registration with our qualifications authorities and also with our Department of Higher Education. They must show you a certificate, and they must show you that if they are saying they are training you to become a doctor, whichever doctor you want to become, they must show you that they have the right to train you as a doctor, okay? And if they can't show you those certificates, please move away from that building and inform us at the Department of Higher Education and Training so that we're able to take further step against those institutions. Some of them, they move building. People always ask, but Every year you are continuing with all this campaign. We go close. A college now this week. Next week it has reopened in a different building, targeting a new group and so on and so forth. So we will continue with this campaign and fortunately working together with their peers in private higher education. And so please rely on our official communication. We said this week to our officials at the Department of Higher Education and throughout the sector that we need to be communicating. We need to be sending out information. We do not need an information gap, and that they must consistently speak and respond to questions in public, on Facebook, and everywhere else. And finally, in conclusion, our post-school education and training system is not static, and it is not in crisis by default, nor in crisis at all. It is under pressure, but we're deliberately ensuring that we engage into discussion around reshaping it. Education and training and skills development in all their forms carry equal dignity and social value. Multiple pathways are not a compromise. They are a strength. And they're helping us to ensure that we build a better economy. Not every learner will secure immediate placement in their first choice. But every learner must be able to find a credible, supported pathway into learning, skills development, and productive participation in society. This is the task we've set ourselves, and we believe that this is the work we will continue to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister, for that. I think the Minister was quite clear. We will take questions, but before we do, I just want to say that we are also live on community radio stations, and we will take questions that are coming from there. But let's start in the room. Are there any questions to the Minister on the Minister's statement? Please introduce yourself and the media house you represent. Thank you. Yes, you can. Hello. You.
Do you have a mic?
Please go to one.
Good morning, Minister Manamela. I am Buti Manamela, a news reporter for YFM. I'm also representing our sister channel, ENCA. Considering that there are many students right now that are currently in limbo, waiting for admission at higher institutions, would you concede, although you did say there isn't a crisis, that there is some sort of, or some level of disorganization within the department that needs to be addressed? And what do we do now with students that are needing to be admitted but have not yet received confirmation? And also, while you also mentioned that TVET colleges remain a solution to some of the complex issues that we face, there are those that have expressed that TVET colleges do not offer courses that they would desire to engage in. Does the department perhaps have a solution for such people that feel like more courses need to be introduced into higher learning institutions like TVET colleges and other alternative institutions of higher learning? There are also some critics that are saying that the system is not designed to meet the demand of first-year students that need to study. Why do you think we see a trend of many learners that are not being admitted into higher learning institutions? Would you say that it's a lack of interest from students' parts, or would you say it's more of limitations that they face with being admitted into higher learning institutions? And lastly, there are other critics that report that the system is not designed to accommodate a high number of applications.
Who are these critics?
On social media, even the people that we speak to on the streets that are South African citizens and students that are coming into higher learning institutions. We also see mushrooming of private institutions that give education at very exorbitant amounts of fees. Are these institutions necessary? That's it.
Okay, any other question in the room? Okay, please go ahead. Please go to a mic.
Okay.
Yes, just so people who are not in the room can hear you.
Oh, thank you. My name is Howard Omaoleo from UFM and Newsnode. Minister, you know this thing of admission space simply not being enough at institutions of higher learning has been happening every year. I would recall that perhaps even during your time that problem was there. Don't you think that the democratic government could have done something in terms of infrastructure investment, both for accommodation and expanding the institutions to meet the numbers that are being churned out by the high schools? Because simply it seems the schools are producing much more great numbers than what the institutions can accommodate. And regarding NSFAS, there were calls last year, I think if I recall properly, when there were issues with payments not being made on time, leaving students stranded, to say why can't the government eliminate the middlemen, considering that the state is able to administer salaries for millions of civil servants, grants through SASSA for millions of beneficiaries of various categories. What necessitates the middlemen in terms of the payout of NSFAS benefits to students? Thank you.
Thank you. The third question.
Thank you. Minister, I'm Anastasia Mfogu for Jakarta FM and East Coast Radio. My question is on, you spoke about community colleges and TVET as alternative options, but the question is, it doesn't seem to be more work being done on the ground to sort of awareness, to inform learners about those alternatives. We know most of them that actually do pass and they can utilize those options, but they don't seem to be aware of what's being offered. We know the work that is being done by universities to go to schools, do career guidance with matrics, and is there some sort of that work being done? And what conversations are you having with the Minister of Basic Education, considering that we've seen that every year the results are improving, but more learners don't really have space in higher institutions? And lastly, are there any other alternative options for those who perhaps don't consider going to universities, but would rather take work opportunities or training skills from government side? Thank you.
Thank you. Should I take more?
Okay, can I start with the last question? So, now that's exactly what I just said, that universities, because if you listen to, in fact, consistently all the three questions, we're talking about higher learning and we're referring to universities. And I just said in my statement that given the multiplicity of the pathways, we have sufficient space, okay? But if we narrow the post-school education, that once you complete, the only option is matric, the only option is university, which is the narrative that we've been selling over the years. We're going to be presenting this narrative as a crisis. But secondly, we plan these enrollments. We plan in terms of universities. We plan in terms of TVET colleges, in terms of community colleges. We know how many lawyers we're going to train this year, okay, across the system. And so if we're going to train 100 lawyers, and that number is not thumbsuck. I don't wake up in the morning and call DDG University and each of the vice chancellors and tell them, this year we're doing 1,000 lawyers. It's not a thumbsuck. There's a process to arrive at that conclusion. But if the demand for law is 1,000 and we've committed to train 100, and that 100 is planned and it's based, does that constitute a crisis? Yes. For those who are, the 900 of them who want to train as lawyers. But we're saying to them that there are alternative paths for training that are available. Okay? This does not mean that we are training to the capacity which we want to train. That's a completely different discussion which we're now having, and which we believe that we need to have in a much more accelerated fashion. Does the size and shape of our system respond, to the demand broadly, to the demands of the economy broadly, and so on and so forth. But we should not fall into the trap of wanting to train 1,000 lawyers just because there's a demand. That's not planning. That's not, rationality in terms of applying how, to run a system that's interconnected to other systems. That would basically be populism. And I think what we need to do now is, to encourage those kids, to look for alternative forms that are available. We've said to universities this morning that, where possible, we need, to be considerate in terms of our, admission policies and so on and so forth. But the reality is that the type of courses that are being demanded now, and the capacity of the system to be able to respond to the, to that demand is obviously compromised. But the emphasis I want to make is that our pathways are not limited. Our pathways are multiple, and that they should be, encouraged. You said, in fact, in your question, are learners not encouraged to go into skills program? Yes, they are. They're encouraged to take up learnerships as part of the pathway, available. They're encouraged to, as I say, to take up occupational trades in our TVET college. And yes, there are challenges. Just as there are challenges in universities, there are also challenges in our community colleges and in our TVET colleges. And those are challenges which we're dealing with. But in the overall, we believe that the number of sports that are available throughout the system and in the various pathways that we're providing, that those sports need to be taken advantage of, and that they need not constitute what we believe is a crisis. Yes, we're doing long-term planning to make sure that we get out of this mess. Hauhelo says we've failed. We've actually not failed. We've multiplied the opportunities that are available to people. And yes, we need to say this more often, and we hope that as we engage with critics, but we also equally engage with those who are positively helping us to spread the message of the pathways that are available in the post-school education and training sector. We're thinking beyond bricks and mortar and investing a lot of our resources into building digital classrooms. We've made strides in many of the universities. There's technology available. In many of our TVETs, they're using creative ways of digitally training students. We're going to strengthen this through our NOLS program in the department. So that's an alternative in ensuring that we expand the opportunity. But even then, it does not mean that if we can train 1,000 lawyers and we only need 900, that we should train 1,000. NSFAS, so Cabinet gave us permission to consult, and so we're going to be consulting on a sustainable student funding model. So the discussion is not about the agency, which is the NSFAS. The discussion is about how do we fund student in a sustainable fashion? How do we make sure that we eliminate the chances of students being excluded from our institutions in the post-school education and training sector? And once we decide this part, then we'll decide what agency will provide this service. So I think the distinction between the two is important. Our interest as a country should be that a student is able to walk into an institution of learning. And though there are no discussions of eliminating NSFAS, NSFAS is an agency of government. NSFAS is providing a service to students in particular on behalf of government, and that there has been challenges of which we are on a continuous basis dealing with. My primary concern is that when we've committed, when are we paying the first allowances, Wasi? 1st of February. So he commits now publicly. So when we make this commitment, my interest is that this commitment is met. When we say to universities, we're paying you your allowances on this day, that commitment is, your grants this day, that commitment is made. And that's the efficiency of the system and machinery we seek to run there. So that's what's happening in the present. In the future, we're discussing sustainable student funding model. And then the question from, the first question from YFM ENCA. Yeah, okay. So planning in terms of enrollment is done by institution working together with the department. And the role of the department is to support, to guide, but to also ensure that that planning complies with the national plan. So it's not done haphazardly. It's not thumbsuck. TVET college principal doesn't just come there and say this is what we want. It has to be aligned, to certain things. So it's a systems-based planning, and we're moving it more towards an integrated, planning system. And then, so there's a point I want to raise here, which we agreed with Minister Hwahube that our two departments must accelerate discussions on this. The release of matric results. The date of the release of the matric results. When I was doing matric, not me personally, but my peers knew that they had passed by Christmas. Of course, the sector has expanded and there are new challenges and so on and so forth, but we believe that we can release the results much earlier. So we agreed that we need to find a sweet spot which will help us with most of the challenges, including the fact that some parents are waiting for confirmation. Now, in the past, when universities got results earlier, people got to know earlier whether they are confirmed or not. And so we're trying to get that sweet spot, and we're hoping that by next year, so that the next results, we would have made, a determination, because it will help us with a huge, with regards to the registration process, to ease it, and so forth. It's also unfair to the kids. You get your results today, tomorrow you're already worried about whether you have a space at university or not. Or at TVET, and so on. But it's also affecting TVET college students or matric students who want to consider TVET as an option. And so we're going to be talking about that, and we believe it will help us a lot. Finally, system is not designed to, the system has to conform. So when we had our PSET strategy, one of the things which we said there was that it's not that we've failed. It is that we now need to reorganize ourselves to meet the new demand. Yes, the question of space has been a challenge. I think Khaukhele and a couple of you mentioned that for the years, but it has not been in the psyche of society. It has not been to this proportion, and so maybe part of the work is to talk about that. Over-reliance on universities. Okay. Importance of private higher education institutions. Private higher education. Look, I don't think it's my personal decision or the decision of the department. Private higher education constitutionally operating within the law, operating. And we, have strengthened monitoring of those. And I think you've seen just recently those institutions which have not been complying with the law. We have given them notice to shut them down. So it's about us strengthening that capacity to monitor private higher education. And if we don't want them, I think we should change the law. But as is the case now, we have the law, and let's do it. Yeah.
Thank you, Minister. Are there any more questions in the room?
Just a follow-up. I think, excuse the ambiguity, Minister. On the question of NSFAS, by middleman, I was not necessarily referring to the entity itself, but the private service providers that it procures to make payment on its behalf. When there's other, a litany of other state institutions that have similar obligations and dispatches those on their own. Why can't NSFAS do so on its own directly to the institutions and the...
He's doing a good work. You must tell you what he's doing there together with his board. Yeah.
Thanks very much. I think it's important to look at the NSFAS system in its entirety, because I think at times we pull out matters in isolation and we present them as facts. And I'll give you an example. The NSFAS system processes 1 million young people.
They're also requesting that you come here, please. So
Yeah,
you
but
can hear.
what's the thing? Fintech and solution provider. I think that's the question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Thanks very much. So, the NSFAS system in its entirety has internal capacity to deliver on application processing, on student feedback. All of that is done internally at NSFAS. Yeah. Now, of course, at times there were decisions, for example, for the payment of allowances to students to be done through third-party providers. That has been suspended. It no longer exists. And NSFAS pays student allowance for universities through partnerships with universities. It pays TVET allowances by itself here, and has done so for the last 2 years quite effectively and efficiently here. Yeah. When it comes to accommodation, it has been an issue which has historical associations with it. We have taken significant steps through a legal review, and we've always said as the board and management that we'll act in accordance with the law. We have taken significant steps, and when we briefed the media on our state of readiness for the 2026 academic year, we indicated that one of the outcomes of our legal review was that NSFAS must pay accommodation providers directly, where we make services of private accommodation providers. And we have taken steps that this year we will pay accommodation providers directly, and we will implement all other elements of the legal review here. So NSFAS, in allowances, in accommodation, in processing of applications, intends to build the requisite capacity to ensure it effectively executes its mandate to society. Thanks very much.
Thank you for that. If we can take questions coming from online. Not sure who's is the one in the house. Okay, and then we'll take, please, if you can indicate who's reading the questions, but please do go ahead.
Sorry, it's Craig Govender from News 24. Melissa mentions that getting a bachelor's pass no longer guarantees admission to university or to a specific program. Does this then mean that you're probably going to see higher education institutions increasing the pass, the admission requirements? And also on that score, can we perhaps have an indication of the number of available places at universities for first-year entrance? And on the point of the deregistration of private colleges, I know we're talking about Damlin and City Varsity. Could we perhaps have an indication as to what the latest is around that, and when we are expecting a final announcement on the possible closure of these institutions?
Okay. Batabile, please read a few.
We have 9 questions from community members listening to Open Heaven FM.
Can we take 4 at first?
Okay. Should I take one from each committee?
Yes, please.
First question. Given last year's changes with NSFAS system glitches and payment delays, what new measures are being implemented to ensure a smooth rollout in 2026? Aviwe Mako from Tamba Hamaska. Will there be any changes in the NSFAS qualifying criteria funding model this year? Kateho Mazini from Hamaska. How is the department tackling the shortage of student accommodation, especially in high-demand urban areas like Tshwane, Cape Town, and Durban? Tebogo from Tamba Hammanskraal. And last question. The PSET sector remains crucial for employment creation. What specific plans are in place to strengthen PSET college performance and employability outcomes? Lengerere from Cosmo.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going. Any more questions?
No, can we answer this because we might lose some of them. Firstly, if DDG Sotrikwa could come and answer the spaces available at universities. And then DG, if you can answer the private higher education, Damlin, the Intel group, as to where's the process now and when is it being concluded. And then NSFAS, yeah.
Okay, yes, please come, DDG.
So, good morning still. To the first question, the number of spaces we've confirmed through the enrollment process. And let me confirm, what we did differently this year, we wrote to all the university council chairs to agree to these numbers. So at the moment, we're sitting at 230,206 for first-time entries. And then on the question of the EduCore group, Damlin has asked for further session of engagement. In other words, they want to appeal the decision, and we have agreed we will hear them. But yes, as we sit here, they have not submitted reviewed financial statements. Thank you.
And answer the newspaper as well, the qualifications passing.
The admissions. Look, the decision around admissions of students is a function of the Council of Universities. And we have to uphold that in view of the legislation. What we do with universities, though, we engage them, particularly where we can agree to concessions, and where students, particularly returning students, they are given a second chance. But in terms of first entrance, the admissions policy of universities hold.
Did you even on the
No, I think
It's okay. Okay. Oh, digital. Okay.
Sorry.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Prega, for the question. Please allow me to provide a little bit of context as well, because it's a question that we think that it interests a lot of people. As a department, it is not our interest to close down any institutions, but it is to support all institutions that are registered to succeed, because they register students. And quite often, as it is the case with the Damelin institution, the reasons for closing them down are We close down the institutions, and institutions then start appealing, as it was the case with them, to say, now look, indeed we have not complied, but the consequences of your decision are to those who are none other than management. It requires us to apply our mind, to look at it carefully, and this has been the case with the JUCO group, of which Damelin is one of them. Now, what is the status right now? Further to concessions by the department and careful consideration of their cases as they submit and resubmit, we have since published and gazetted a notice to deregister them again. And now, in terms of the law, they need to, within a given period of time, submit to the minister if they have any objections, and we will consider those submissions. And based on what they have submitted, if they meet the deadlines that we have given, we then deregister them. And that applies to not only to them, to many other institutions. The good news is that there are very few instances where this happens. In the majority of cases, our private education system have always tried to comply with our rules. We've got within the department a unit that deals with these matters, which support them, which visits. The minister has delegated this function as well within our deputy minister to actually continuously engage them. This last week, the minister called upon the workshop, a strategic workshop at which all private institutions were invited, and they have an opportunity to also influence the new direction that the department is taking. I trust that helps.
Thank you, DG.
Thanks very much. So I think two questions around NSFAS. The first one around payment delays. I think we want to make a public commitment as NSFAS that there will be no payment delays for valid qualifying students and accommodation providers. Where accommodation providers, as the minister indicated, if you go and you take students from either residences forcefully or from other accommodation providers and take them to your own private accommodation, and then you come to NSFAS's door and demand payment, we will not pay you because you've not followed process here. So we have been very clear in our circulars to indicate that we will not tolerate such kind of behavior. And I really hope that people don't do that and then present to the media that they are not paid because they did not follow proper process in doing that. In terms of the qualifying criteria for NSFAS, I think that the minister also would have indicated that we are embarking on a consultation process for what is a more sustainable funding and financing model for higher education in South Africa. And of course, NSFAS is a big component associated with that. And we'll be looking at the evidence and data that's available, one of which is performance of our students, which is at this stage is very promising in nature here. And we'll act on the basis of the data and evidence in recommending any changes for how the bursary scheme and the loan scheme continues to function. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister, DG, and CEO. If we may read the rest of the community radio questions, please.
We have 4 more questions from Inside Radio and 1 from Opel Radio. First question. A big number of students who passed with a bachelor's will not be able to find a spot in a public university. How will the department cater for these students? Second question. How is the department ensuring the spots at the Tibet colleges are fully utilized given the continued historical preferences for university degrees? Question number 3. Given the decline in maths and accounting pass rates in the 2025 matric results, what bridging or foundational programs are being prioritized to ensure students are ready for engineering and science degrees? Last question from Impact Radio. What measures will the department put in place to ensure SETAs are effectively bridging the gap for the youth who aren't in education, employment, or training? A question from Copel Radio. Does the 30 billion rand loss not motivate stricter rules for acceptance in the program?
Which program? Okay. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Ask them to clarify, please.
Yeah, okay. All right. Engineering, math, science, all of that, I think universities have in place programs, and similarly to VET colleges, programs, to prepare their students. And yes, there's concern about the matric results related to maths and science, math, science, technology, engineering, but I think we've indicated what we're doing with that. So that's one. Two, the sector education and training authorities. We just concluded the appointment of chairpersons of SETAs, and we will be having an engagement with the different boards and executives in ensuring that they understand the priorities, particularly not just to young people who are not in employment, education, and training, which yes is one of those, but importantly to ensure that we fill up the gap in terms of skills and training, and also fill up the gap in terms of skills that transition to work. The representative of their forum sits in the war room. Their representatives, and so that's one of the mechanisms in which we keep them accountable. But continuously, we want to ensure that the direction that SETAs take is the direction that helps us meet the goals of our country. And I think finally is that we've finalized the discussion internally around SETA reforms, and it's a discussion which we will be consulting widely around, but I don't think it's a discussion for now. I think we'll take it up into that. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much, members of the media. I think that concludes the media briefing of the Department of Higher Education and Training. Thank you. I was asked to apologize that there are no refreshments. Thank you.